if it is asked for SCs and STs. So your intro shall begin with the article which talks about the scheduled caste or scheduled tribes. Okay, so where scheduled caste is defined and how scheduled caste is defined or how scheduled tribe is defined. Okay, so based on the question, look, if question is about problems, so you have to convert them into what are the social, economical, political, educational. So all these problems you have to write. These have to be backed up with the statistics. Okay, these things have to be backed up with statistics plus examples. At the same time, you should add the dimension of various anthropologists or anthropologists or any researchers who have conducted those studies. Those studies you have to add over here. That means, like, you can, in a simple terms, you can call it case studies done by various anthropologists and the view of various anthropologists. Suppose when talking about scheduled caste, so we have learned that like what is the Louis Dumont view on caste, right? So what is the Louis Dumont view on caste? Okay, on caste, what did he say? He talked that, like, he's focused, he's interested on the ideational, like ideology behind the ideology of the caste. At the same time, his version was that caste is more about ritual in nature. It is because of ritual aspect, right? He says that he talked about the binary oppositions of purity and impurity, right? Inferiority and superiority within the caste. So that part, like, he's that ritual purity and pollution concept which has been talked by Louis Dumont, you can mention while writing about scheduled castes, right? So he has said that, like, those people belonging to the scheduled caste or the lower strata are considered to be impure, and the touch that has come, like, if a person of higher caste comes in touch with the lower caste people, it is considered to be polluted. So this was the aspect that has been discussed by Louis Dumont. So we have done Louis Dumont in detail, so that application part you have to bring in this, right? So, and with respect to scheduled tribes, we have discussed lots of what do you call, views of various thinkers, D.N. Majumdar, L.P. Vidyarthi, S.C. Dubey, okay, N.K. Bose, and many other aspects we have already discussed. At the same time, in 6.1 chapter, I have talked about ample number of case studies. So you can add any of them while writing about the answer. So again, after writing this, you have to talk about the critical analysis. Critical analysis. So before talking about critical analysis, after this you have to write about the safeguards, constitutional safeguards or legislative safeguards. This can be constitutional or legislative. Okay, that means safeguards or the measures taken by the government. Okay, so measures taken or the developmental programs. Then you write the critical analysis of the same, right? So if you are writing the critical analysis of those things, then you will get a, like, you are giving a clear picture of entire thing. Okay, so this would make your answer complete, and because of this you can get good marks. Okay, so I don't think examiner would be expecting more than this in your answers with respect to the topics that we have discussed. Okay, so it's all about application of what you have learned in the past, right? So if 6th chapter you understood well, like what are the problems, if you have understood well, so again the problems of STs are going to remain the same. So that's why I'm not taking up the problems of scheduled tribes again. So what are the problems regarding health, education, okay, so indebtedness, bonded labor, and all these problems we have already discussed in our 6.1, and for that reason, sorry, in 6.2, for that reason I am not going to discuss the problems, but I am going to discuss the what are the constitutional safeguards and what is the critical analysis of the constitutional safeguards. Are they working in tandem? Okay, so how, like, as they planned, like, are we implementing the vision of the people who have instituted those safeguards in the constitution, right? So that part we'll be discussing, but we are not going to discuss the problems, because with respect to problems and data on tribes we have already discussed, and I think I would be providing you the notes on the 6th unit very soon. So just be little patient. I think you'll get all the notes completely, and paper 2 book also you'll get by mid of the March, or mostly by end of the March. So don't worry with respect to notes. In the notes you'll be having everything, but try to understand what is there. Okay, so let's move forward. So first thing first, so who are scheduled caste? So now first we are taking up problems of scheduled caste and what are the constitutional safeguards of scheduled caste and their analysis in such a manner. Okay, so that we are going to do. So for that, first you need to understand who are scheduled caste. So scheduled caste has been defined under Article 341. So scheduled castes are those castes which are included in the Article 341 by the president. Okay, president creates a list, okay, of people. They might belong to any class, caste, okay, or race, irrespective of this aspect. Okay, based on any aspect, considering their historical background, a president of India can include a particular group under this list. Okay, so this, all the people who have been mentioned in this list are known as scheduled caste. So they didn't give a proper definition, but according to constitution, scheduled castes are those who have been listed under Article 341. Okay, so that's the thing with respect to scheduled castes. Okay, so in the constitution, but according to Varna system or Hindu traditional system, what is scheduled caste? Scheduled caste are those people who have been left out of the Varna system. So those who are beyond Shudras, we already know this. Okay, so the fifth part, the untouchables. Okay, the untouchables form the part of external part of Varna system. So according to Hindu traditional Varna system, who are scheduled caste? Scheduled castes are untouchables according to this. And what do you mean by Dalit? Okay, so Dalit, according to Victor Premsagar, okay, according to so he is one of the person who worked upon scheduled caste. So according to him, Dalit, okay, so there is a word which is used alternatively for scheduled caste in order to indicate the weakness of the people. Like, see, there is the term carries weakness, impoverishment. Okay, so there is weakness, impoverishment and lack of privilege. So it carries all these things according to Victor Premsagar. Okay, so this is the term used alternatively. Okay, so some of the leaders have taken up the term Dalit instead of scheduled caste in order to indicate these people are weak and we need to work upon them to improve them, and there is a need for self development. Okay, there is a need for development of these backward classes. Okay, so according to constitution, like all the thing, they have defined backward classes as those including scheduled caste, scheduled tribes and other backward classes. So these are all considered as backward in terms of social, political and economic development. Okay, so this is, and their population size, if you note, the population size is around 16.6%. okay, so 16.6% of the population according to 2011 census. Alright, so this is with respect to who are scheduled castes according to constitution and according to Hindu Varna system, what is their population size and what do you mean by Dalit. Okay, so next moving on to the problems or the disabilities, right? So the question may be posed as what are the social disabilities or political, economical, or any kind of disabilities. Analyze the disabilities, okay, faced by the scheduled caste. So you have to write what are the disabilities, and when they just ask disabilities, sometimes you don't have much of the words to write an answer. At that moment, what you have to do is you have to write about the disabilities, increase the number of examples, then you have to write about the measures that have been taken to overcome these disabilities, and after that you have to write the conclusion or the critical analysis. Because of the failure of the implementation of these programs or the measures, so the social disabilities still prevail at a particular level. Okay, so in this way you can conclude at the end. So this you have to follow while writing an answer. So first under social disabilities, if you see untouchability and social status. So according to G.S. Gurye, scheduled caste are those people who have been placed at the lowest strata, or who has been given the lower status, and they don't lack and they don't have any privileges. They lack privileges. Okay, they lack privileges and they have been kept at the lower status compared to the others. Okay, so they lack all the privileges to lead a comfortable and better life. Okay, so G.S. Gurye also talked that SCs are devoid of any meaningful privileges. He has also talked about they are devoid of any meaningful privileges. Okay, next, for example, if you see this status, regarding the status example you can quote is that in the Tanjore village in the past, like what they used to do, if somebody has to enter, okay, so Tanjore, or you can write Travancore also. In the Travancore, especially in Kerala, so in the Travancore village, what used to happen when somebody has to enter a village, in order to not let the shadow of these people fall on the upper caste people, what these people has to do, they have to beat the drums before entering the village. Okay, so this shows the lack of privilege to move freely. It is restricting their rights to move freely. Okay, so it is also restricting the right to equality, right? So this example you can quote the example in Travancore, that the scheduled caste, if they have to enter a village, they have to beat the drums before entering. And next, regarding the atrocities. Okay, so with respect to atrocities, I think you can recall a lot of examples which have been appearing in the news. But okay, so like recently in the, let me take a different pen. Okay. So with respect to atrocities, so in Kachanathan village of Tamil Nadu, so in this village, okay, so when Dalits were offering prayers to the god in the temple, okay, so by sitting cross-legged, okay, so they were offering and prayers by sitting cross-legged. Okay, so for this reason they have been killed. Okay, so 2 Dalits have been killed while offering. Okay, so this is one of the example for the atrocities. So this kind of atrocities have been performed, and there have been an incident in Odisha where the girl has been tied to a tree and she has been beaten to death for the reason that she has been in love with the upper caste man. Okay, so that is also one incident. So these are the atrocities performed against the Dalits or the scheduled caste, and they are also prevented from accessing to the public spaces. We already know that while reading about Louis Dumont or André Beetle, when they have talked that, so these people have settlements outside the those people existing with the higher caste. Okay, so these are the higher caste settlements, and these people used to settle somewhere outside the hamlet, right? So these people are present on the exteriors or the outskirts of the village or the hamlet, right? So they have been provided, like when they have to go for collecting water or something, so they have been given certain timings that they should go only during those hours where these upper caste people are not present, right? So this is one of the problems. They don't have access to public spaces. And if you also see, like Andrew Beetle has showed that how the settlement has been higher caste to lower caste in the north to east, north to south, in the Tanjore village, right? So when he has conducted a study in the Tanjore village, Andrew Beetle has talked about it. So that example you can quote when you're writing that prohibition from the public spaces. And next, coming to prohibition from practicing customs which are privileges, okay, of higher caste. So like here the example you can quote is recently, like if you have watched the series, Mirzapur series, or various series, like there in UP also, in various towns there has been incidents that, like if lower caste people are trying to imitate the customs of higher caste, suppose they are taking a horse to ride while during the marriage ceremonies. So since it was the practice of higher caste, so these people were not able to tolerate, and they attacked this and this bridegroom and killed him. So for that reason you can talk that, so these privileges of higher castes are not being allowed to practice by the lower caste, that is scheduled caste. Okay, so these are the social disabilities with respect to scheduled caste. Okay, so first, untouchability or the lower status in the society. So you can talk about G.S. Gurye, who said that they don't have any privileges, and you can quote the example. So for every topic or for every line, when you substantiate with the example, so that becomes little what do you call, worthy providing marks. Okay, or else it would be very generic. Okay, so this I am erasing. Okay, next, moving on to the educational problems or educational problems of scheduled castes. Okay, so if you see their educational status, overall they have 66%, and men have around 73, and women have, they're lesser, like it is like around 50 to 55%. So you can see overall what is the percentage of mainstream population. It is around 76, right? 76 to 79, I don't remember exactly. So just it is more than 70%, right? So like it is 66 for the scheduled caste. That too, women are facing more deprivation in terms of education. That is less, like it is not more than 50%, it is very less, right? So coming to the educational aspect, traditionally, first of all, they are not allowed to go through the Sanskritic verses. Okay, so they're not allowed to go through the Sanskritic verses in the past, and in the traditional villages they are not allowed to access education. Only those people belonging to higher caste were able to access education. Okay, so and there has also been a situations in various places, okay, in the recent times, be it in Karnataka or in Karnataka and Uttarakhand, there has been fight between the various groups within the village. Okay, so there are people who belong to scheduled caste in the school. At the same time, there are people who belonging to other caste in the school. And what happened when midday meals have been cooked by scheduled caste women, the students belonging to the upper caste boycotted, and they don't want to have food over there in the schools. And because of that reason, there has been decrease in the number of students who are consuming midday meals at schools. Okay, so now because of that reason, what happened, the upper caste people have acted and they have removed that Dalit woman. Okay, so they have removed that Dalit women and replaced with those with the upper caste. At the same time, there has also been a position in most of the places that these people belonging to scheduled caste have been provided meals at the last. Okay, only if something is left out, and because of that reason also number of students who are attending the school feel discriminated, and sometimes they quit the school. Okay, sometimes they quit the school. So this, according to National Dalit Movement for Justice, so this has been provided by the report of, so there is a report by National Dalit Movement for Justice. Okay, so based on this report, we were talking about these things, it also said that, see, the number of people who has access to education are very low among, especially among the scheduled castes. So there have been lot of kind of discrimination and atrocities according to this commission. So sometimes when you are having data and you don't remember who has provided it, at times you can make use of National Dalit Movement for Justice. It generally talks about the problems and their statistics. Okay, so according to Thorat Commission, there has been discrimination in institutions. Okay, so around 67 to 70% of the institution students have mentioned that, see, the institutes make discrimination in recruiting the students, okay, while making conducting exams for entrance. So these institutes, around more than 70% of the people, 70% of the students have mentioned it. They also mentioned that they face discrimination from the teachers as well. Okay, they have faced the discrimination from the teachers as well. At the same time, in terms of interviews also, Sukhdev Thorat, okay, so Thorat, and at the same time Paul Attilwell plus Sukhdev Thorat, these so they have published a research. Based on that, if you observe, around 60% of the people, okay, are less likely to receive interview call based on their resume, because they belong to scheduled caste. And I already mentioned in the recent times also in some of the classes that, like, recent report which have been brought out, I think in the print newspaper, or I don't know exactly which newspaper, but there has been a report which has mentioned that 99% of the professors 99% of the professors belonging to IITs or IIMs belongs to the upper caste. So you can see the kind of discrimination, and we also know that a particular amount of reservation has been kept separate for scheduled caste, and that has been not being implemented, and it is clearly visible, right? It's clearly visible, but nobody is acting on it, despite the many protests and many activists who are working on this area were not able to bring the changes that is so much visible in the society. Okay, so this is with respect to educational disabilities. Then you have economic exploitation, right? So the economic exploitation, first thing, around 43% of the people belonging to scheduled caste are BPL. That means they belong to below poverty line. Okay, so and next, according to SCCC 2011, so what is the scenario here? Okay, around 33 to 43%. Okay, this number can vary according to a different data set. Okay, so around 73% who belonging to the rural area are most deprived. Okay, they don't have access to the education, health, okay, so any economic occupation. And there is occupational restrictions, we all know that, we have seen, right? So those belonging to lower caste or the scheduled caste are allowed to perform only menial jobs, and they're not allowed to take up those jobs which are practiced by the upper caste. And at the same time, there is property restriction also. Like if you see, for example, in the Tehri district of Uttarakhand, there, okay, so there is a caste known as Kota who belongs to scheduled caste. Okay, these people belong group known as quota. So who belong to scheduled caste, these people are prevented from owning gold. So owning gold and land. These things have been prohibited. Okay, so you can see there is a property restrictions also, owning of property restrictions, right? And at the same time they have occupational restrictions with respect to economic things. Okay, so I already talked about the study that there is a legacy of social exclusion, and Sukhdev Thorat and Paul Attilwell, these people have conducted a study, and based on that around 67 to 63 to 70% of the people don't receive interview calls for the reason that they belong to scheduled castes, right? So these are the economic exploitation or the economic problems that have been faced by the scheduled caste. And next, moving on to the political problems, and there has been a report by NDMJ that we have already talked, that what is happening at the PRIs, Panchayat Raj institutions, and MLA and MP, what is happening? The people are bringing up dummies. Dummies in the sense they duplicate people. Real power is not with them, but they are bringing up somebody who can represent them, but all the power is held by those people who belong to the upper caste. Okay, so this is what is happening in terms of Panchayat Raj institutions and the reservations that have been happened at the various stages. Okay, so that is with respect to political problems. And now with respect to analysis of exploitation, KM Panikar, so okay, KM Panikar, so what does he say? He says that, see, in the past there used to be slavery. So there in the past, if you see during the British times, like during the colonial periods, there is a practice of slavery. Even during the slavery, that slave is owned by his master. That means slave belongs to somebody, right? But the kind of untouchability or the atrocity, the situation of the scheduled caste in the later point of time in India is worse than slavery, for the reason that nobody owns him, right? So nobody owns him, and he is considered as something external, and he is considered, his fate is considered so bad that he has to go through all the problems, all the situations which makes him vulnerable, right? He has to go through all the situations which makes him vulnerable in the current life, just because of his fate, which is believed to be that he has born in a particular caste for the reason of the acts that he has performed in the previous life. Okay, this is the karma and rebirth theory, which talks about why they should perform those kind of occupations, just because varna karma, because they belong to particular varna, or these people belong to scheduled castes or untouchables, they have to perform the menial jobs, right? So this is analysis of exploitation by KM Panikar. And then what are the factors, like today in the modern times, what are the factors that have been diluting this scheduled caste problems? We know that, like, because of education, so education, transportation, so untouchability has been reduced a lot. So education, because of education, today we don't deal in the similar manner that the people of the past used to do with the scheduled caste. Today we are aware that they are also equal with us, and our constitution has provided equal rights, and we should treat them with utmost equality. Okay, so these are the things. And what are the other things? So education, modernization, and globalization, because of opportunities that have been provided to the scheduled caste, they are able to perform well, right? So you can write these are the factors which are diluting the disabilities, and you can add a lot more. So industrialization, urbanization, and etc., right? So next, moving on to the safeguards that have been provided by the constitution, right? What are the safeguards that have been provided under Article 38? So it is the duty of the government to ensure justice to all the sections of the people. Okay, so it is duty of the government ensure all the sections of the people, which covers SCs and STs and all other backward classes also. At the same time, Article 46 talks about it is the duty of the government to ensure economic safeguards. for the weaker sections. It talks about the weaker sections. So weaker sections include SC, ST also. So not just economic safeguards, all kinds of safeguards with respect to weaker sections. Okay, so which includes SCs and STs also. So there is a provision for reservation in the panchayats or at the PRI level under Article 243D, and in Lok Sabha under 330. So there is a reservation for SCs. This is at the state legislative assemblies. So we already discussed that Article 341 allows the president to place a group under scheduled caste. Okay, so who are considered scheduled caste? So Article 341 provides, okay, so safeguard for the president to place somebody in this aspect. At the same time, Article 335, okay, Article 335 talks about, I don't remember exactly what is Article 330. Okay, so reservation. Reservation in service of a post. Look, reservation in services and posts. So in various services, if reservation has to be made, so it can be considered under Article 335. Okay, so these are the political safeguards. And next, coming to the protective safeguards, Article 15, which prevents discrimination. So everybody has to be treated on the same grounds, right? So Article 15 prevents discrimination. At the same time, Article 16 ensures that there is employment for all. So equality of employment under public services. Right, under Article 23, so in the past, since they have to be they have to perform beggar and human labor, so these people have been employed under bonded labor. In order to prevent that, Article 23 ensures that protection. Okay, so freedom of religion under Article 25. So these are the protective safeguards that have been ensured under Constitution. At the same time, developmental safeguards, 15 clause 2, Article 15 clause 2, what does it talk about? Article 15 clause 2 talks about the prevention of discrimination. Okay, so these government can take measures in order to provide reservation under, see, these two has to be read consecutively. So like under Article 15.2, it ensures government can make recommendations or the measures for the protection of these weak backward classes. Okay, so under Article 15 class 4, what it says is that government can make reservations for the educational institutions to scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. Okay, so under 16.4, in terms of employment, government can make reservations. Under Article 17, there is a prevention of untouchability, right? So untouchability is considered as a crime, and it is mentioned in the Constitution also in order to ensure safety to the scheduled castes. Okay, under Article 338, so National Scheduled Caste Commission has been set up. National Commission for Scheduled Caste has been set up under Article 338. And next, Ministry of Social Justice, who also looks up into the problems of scheduled caste. So these are the safeguards that have been provided in the scheduled caste. But at the same time, when the question is asked on the safeguards or constitutional safeguards of scheduled caste, what you have to do, you have to write all this with using proper subheadings, and after that, what you have to do, you have to write the critical analysis. You have to say, like, okay, so there is economic safeguards provided, but still there is a meager amount of people represented in the be it in the educational institutions or in the economic group A, group B services. So there is a need for data on all these aspects, and you have to write the critical analysis. You can say that despite there is a provision that ensuring justice, okay, ensuring justice to all the people has been provided in the Constitution, still government is not able to provide the justice, right? Many people are not having education. At the same time, they are very poor. They are not able to access the health facilities. So the MMR and IMR ratios you have to quote while writing in the critical analysis. Okay. So legislative provisions are also there, like SC/ST Prevention of Atrocities Act, Civil Rights Act, okay, Protection of Civil Rights and Prevention of Manual Scavenging Act. Okay, these are the legislative safeguards, right? And Sugdiya Torat Commission, so in the conclusion you can write, Sugdiya Torat Commission has talked about there is a need for representation of scheduled tribes. Representation of scheduled tribes. By forming the committees. So he suggests that form committees in all the public services, and in those public services committees there should be a representation of scheduled tribe, scheduled caste. Okay, so at the same time he has also said that separate colleges or services for education has to be provided to scheduled caste. So this was the view of so these are the recommendations of Sukhdev Thorat Commission, and he says that there is a need for consideration to prevent discrimination in terms of education and employment for the scheduled caste, and there is a need for implementation of reservation provisions that have been provided by the constitution. Okay, so in conclusion you can mention these programs and developmental programs. Like I'll tell you what are the developmental programs. There is pre-matric scholarship. Generally these are same for all the backward classes, for SCs, STs and scheduled tribes. Okay, sorry, other backward classes. So there is pre-matric scholarship. That means during the schooling. So there is pre-matric scholarship, post-matric scholarship, and scholarship for higher education. Okay. So these are all schemes are being run. At the same time there is also scholarship for national fellowships. If somebody want to practice PhD, national fellowship scheme by PM, okay, and Pradhan Mantri national fellowship scheme is there. So these are the developmental programs with respect to education and with respect to what do you call business or entrepreneurship. With respect to this aspect, okay, so there is National Scheduled Caste Financial Development Corporation, which provides loans to these people. At the same time there is also National Safai Karmachari Commission, which looks about the problems of Safai Karmacharis. National Safai Karmachari Commission. Okay, so other, if you can recall, there is a Stand Up India which gives importance to those backward classes if they want to make any startup or start any business. So the government is going to provide support to these people as well. Okay, so this is with respect to stand up in entrepreneurship. Okay, so there are other programs also with respect to scheduled castes, right? So these are the developmental programs. You can mention them and you can give the critical analysis. Okay, so the developmental programs are same, like instead of a National Scheduled Caste Financial Development Corporation which gives loans, for ST it is National Scheduled Tribes, and for BC you can write the National Backward Class Financial Development Corporation. So these are all the things. Developmental programs are almost similar, but the amount that is being given, so these things vary. Okay, so what are the amount that have been allocated to these areas vary, but the programs have been almost same. So till education, so they have pre-matric, post-matric, national fellowship for PhD. Okay, if they want to go abroad also there have been schemes. So this is with respect to education. For employment, okay, so the Financial Development Corporation and Stand Up India scheme, that is for women, other backward classes and STs also. Okay, so and what are the other programs that you can mention? So this is how you have to approach when you are studying scheduled caste. Okay, first, who are they? Okay, and what are the point of view I have told you that Victor Prem Sagar considers these people to be weak and impoverished. For that reason, it is the term Dalit is used, and Dalit carries this intensity of the lack of privilegeness. Okay, the lack of privileges to the scheduled caste tribes. Oh, sorry, tribes. No, it's not tribes. It's scheduled caste. Okay, so that is the thing. And with respect to disabilities, there is social disabilities, economic disabilities, political disabilities, educational disabilities, and after that you can use various examples. And there are also constitutional safeguards. Okay, so the constitutional safeguards are almost similar with respect to scheduled tribes also. So these constitutional safeguards I don't need to explain you, because these all things you will be studying under your general studies. So for that reason I didn't concentrate more on giving explanation on these constitutional safeguards, because all these articles should be by heart for you, because there is a chance that these articles are so important. These people are considered to be backward classes of the country. For that reason there is a high chance that questions can appear on these articles. Even for prelims it is very important. So for that reason anyhow you everybody who is studying for UPSC should be aware of these articles. Okay, so next coming to the legislative provisions, and after that you have the conclusion. Okay, so that way you can complete the holistic understanding of scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. Problems we have already seen. Okay, so constitutional safeguards also almost remain the same. Okay, so and in extra what do you have for scheduled tribes? You have 5th schedule, 6th schedule, PISA Act. So these are the things. Okay, 5th, 6th and PISA Act I have already told you we'll be discussing it, so don't worry about that. That we'll be discussing in detail. At the same time there are also program known as goal program, which is in collaboration between Ministry of Tribal Affairs and the Facebook. So they are trying to create entrepreneurship. Okay, so they are trying to create entrepreneurs in the tribal women, among the tribal women. So these are the programs, but at the same time you can write again in the critical analysis what you are going to write, that we have read the kind of poverty they have. So the number of people residing below poverty, number of people who are owning the land. Okay, here 43% were landless. Okay, similarly there also the number of people displaced, and the number of people like with respect to having the kind of maternal mortality rate, infant mortality rate, and the number of people who are lacking employment, so labor force participation rate and unemployment rate among the tribes. So these all things you have to write under critical analysis. You can also quote the Mungekar committee, the Buria committee, or the Debar commission with respect to tribes. Okay, so these commissions you have to mention under the critical analysis, and then you have to make a conclusion. So that's how you have to approach an answer if a question is asked on scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. Okay, so I think you're clear with this part, and our unit on 7.1 is done. Okay, so next like there is other backward classes which we would be discussing. Okay, so other backward classes we'll be discussing in the next class, but with respect to scheduled caste and scheduled tribes I think we are done, and I'll be telling you the critical analysis of scheduled tribes in the next class, right? So that's all for today. Thank you.